Well, I expect students to be active participants in their learning. Because if we take the language classes, but even the culture and literature classes that I teach, I'm not a lecturer. I've never been a lecturer. Language learning is not really done by a lecture. It is by its very nature interactive. And so I expect my students to be participating and to be taking a very active part in their own learning. You know, you can't fall asleep in a language class. You can't say, I don't talk in a language class. You have to talk, and you have to participate. So I guess the word the word today would be a facilitator of learning, and that probably hasn't changed. What has changed are some of the methods that we use. And while I can't say that I have grabbed onto every new method that's been out there, what I have tried to do over the years is to stay current, to see what's new, and to bring that to what I do in the classroom. In my language classes, I speak Italian. I usually speak almost exclusively Italian from day one. I find that students can adapt to that. Of course, if they have terrible problems, you know, I don't leave them there hanging. But we do in language learning today more and more begin with the language and bring the structure of the language into kind of as a secondary part of what we're doing in the classroom. I actually like to use materials that come from Italy, so that we're creating as much authenticity.
Like what?
In
Can you
what
give an example? Or?
My book. I use a text that comes from Italy that is designed for teaching Italian to foreigners in Italy. So there will be all kinds of everyday situations. One may be going to the store and buying clothing. So students learn not only how to greet people in a store, how to ask for something, and then if it's a clothing store, we learn the different kinds of clothing. We learn about pricing. We learn about sizes. They do role playing in class. That's the kind of thing that we'll do. We'll take that example, maybe learning how to ask for things, and we'll bring it to a restaurant. And once again, how to greet, how to order a meal in Italy, what's important for Italians in terms of eating, because eating is important, and how to eat is different from, well, how to order a meal is different from what we do in this country. How to pay, how to tip, all of those little things that they'll need. Because the truth is, I'm hoping that many of my students will actually go abroad. Things that have changed in foreign language teaching have to do, of course, with technology. It is, I'm technologically challenged, but even I bring Italy into the classroom through technology. For example, this last year, when the Olympics were going on, in my upper level classes, I could use the information that was coming in regarding the Italian athletes from newspaper articles, from YouTube videos. We could look at that and then utilize that information that was live, that was current, to do other kinds of exercises that involved language learning. I don't know that my philosophy of teaching has changed that much. I try to, and have from the beginning, try to encourage our students to learn about another culture, to learn that knowing a language helps you learn about another culture. You know, very often folks will say, well, I didn't need, you know, the foreign language in that country. Everybody speaks English. But you learn different things about another culture if you can approach it through their language. So I think my philosophy of helping students learn that there's a bigger world out there, of encouraging students to explore that world. That part I don't think has changed. What has changed probably has been a process of change through new methodologies, etc. But putting the student first, no, that hasn't changed. Yes and no. One of the things I noticed immediately about the UD student, and I came from a state university. In fact, all of my education prior had been through public education state universities, was the connection of our students to their families. Family is really important for our students, and that isn't always the same at other places. So that's one thing that I've noticed. The other things and ways in which students have changed have been cultural changes that probably have occurred all over. The increased communication, the cell phone, the Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is. In that way, students have changed. But I don't think perhaps that they've actually changed that much. I think that we continue to attract students who are interested in service, who are interested in being part of a community. The Marianist mission has remained throughout all the time that I've been here. Of course, we see less Marianist presence on campus. When I first came to UD, there were a lot of black suits on campus. There were a lot of Marianists present, and we don't see that. During Brother Fitz's 20-plus years as president, he made a great deal of effort. As the number of Marianist locations was diminishing, he made a great deal of effort to keep the Marianist spirit alive on campus and to really communicate to the campus community what it meant to be a Marianist institution. We heard it over and over again, and I think until we really began internalizing it. And so I think that part has remained. It's remained a community of learners, and I think that's extremely important. Probably what makes us a bit unique. Other changes, and this has been good from my perspective. When I came to UD, I had study abroad experience. I had been involved in a number of programs, and the international climate on campus was not strong. The appreciation of internationalization, the appreciation of what we might call the shrinking world was not strong. During those years, efforts that were made were by individuals and individual groups. It was during the 70s and 80s that we developed an international studies program, study abroad, and again, individual efforts. The College of Arts and Sciences, the School of Business, individual efforts continued, but there wasn't really a strong impetus for internationalizing the campus. The efforts were scattered, not coordinated. Now, finally, I would have to say that there is an effort from top down that has supported internationalization. And we have the Center for International Programs, which has been given new support so that we have an effort to not only send our students abroad and to coordinate that with what's going on in the classroom here, but to bring in international students. We have, of course, the English as a Second Language Institute. All of these little things existed, but they weren't part of the major mission of the university, and now they are.